Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope we all are here in good spirits and good energy. I'm really excited about our 2023 annual general membership meeting. Um, but before I go any further with introductions and more, I just want to kind of bring your attention to a few housekeeping and logistics details. I'm going to have my colleague here, Adam Trott, uh, kind of walk us through those housekeeping and logistics detail, and then we'll fully get started with our program.
Thanks so much, Terrence. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you at our 2023 annual general meeting and annual co-op forum. As Terrence said, my name is Adam. I'm the Director of Member Relations at Shared Capital. And as you all log in, we just wanted to give a couple of pieces of information about how today is going to go. At this point, I'm sure you're all really comfortable with video conferencing, but we just wanted to say that if you have any issues, you can go right in the chat. You can find the chat, the top taskbar of this window, and you can find me and just message me, or you can just message everyone if there's any issues, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. This program is a Teams webinar, as you know, so thank you for your patience if it's your first time. We're going to be spotlighting attendees. You are welcome to share your camera. We are keeping mics off until the breakout sessions. We will have 2 breakout sessions after the co-op forum, and you'll be able to have cameras and mic at that point. Also, you can tailor some of this how you like, as I'm sure many of you know. At the top of the taskbar again, you can go to View, and you can select the number of things that you like. You can see everyone with gallery or speaker view, gallery at top, or full screen. Again, you will have the opportunity to have questions, and you can put those in the chat. We will try to have some Q&A after the business meeting, should there be time, before the cooperative forum. And then we'll also have some time, hopefully, after the cooperative forum for a couple of questions. You'll use that for the chat too. Then in Q&A, in the breakout sessions, you'll be able to say things directly using your mic. Okay, lastly, our session's being recorded. Thank you so much for being here, and back to you, Terrence.
Thanks, Adam. Again, I just want to issue a beautiful and warm welcome to everyone here today in attendance to Shared Capital's 2023 annual general membership meeting. Thank you to our members, our partners, our friends, and investors for sharing this time with us today. I'm Terrence Courtney. I'm the Director of Cooperative Development and Strategic Initiatives for the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, which is a member of Shared Capital. But I also wear another hat, and that hat is I'm happen to be the president of Shared Capital Board of Directors at this time. So I'm happy to be here and join you. As many of you know, Shared Capital was founded 45 years ago by cooperatives, and we are proud to welcome you here to join us with this 2023 annual general membership meeting. I'm going to briefly review the agenda, and then we're going to move forward with our conversation. So we're going to start off today in our conversation with our business meeting. And then we're going to move into later on a cooperative forum, which will explore how conversions to worker cooperatives are benefiting workers. And then we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for breakout rooms, where there you will have time to, number one, continue to discuss the conversation from the forum, and 2, spend more time looking at our financial performance and conditions. Minutes and financial statements will also be available on our website at sharedcapital.coop/annual meeting. All right, so to introduce the next step of our conversation, I want to introduce the Shared Capital Board of Directors. As you already met me, but some of the other people I have the great opportunity to be on the board with are Mr. Thomas Beckett, the Executive Director of Carolina Common Enterprise. We also have Anna Boyer, bookkeeper and C4 bookkeeper of C4 and Design, C4 Tech and Design. Sorry. We also have JQ Hanna, who's the assistant director at Food Co-op Initiative. Camille Kerr, vice president and principal of Upside Down Consulting. Gail Patrice Lockhart Anthony, owner of Black Label Consulting. Repa Mecca, secretary and president and CEO of Nexus Community Partners. Julie Ristow, senior fellow and advisor with Sharing Our Roots and member of the Minnesota Common Land. Charity Schmidt, staff and at the University of Wisconsin Center of Cooperatives and coordinator of the Madison Cooperative Development Collaborative. Holly Jo Sparks, treasurer and executive director of Spartan Cooperative Housing and member of the board of directors of the Oriana Natural Foods. Pamela Standing, the executive director of the Minnesota Indigenous Business Alliance. And that, I think, covers all of our board of directors. So again, I give thanks to them for helping to lead the organization and working with me to get things done. I also want to thank our sponsors here today. We have NCB, the National Cooperative Bank, which is a premier sponsor of this event, and Shared Capital. A special thanks to them and with their ongoing relationship with Shared Capital. We also have additional sponsors that includes those you see above you or in front of you. Thank you to them, like Capital Impact Partners, National Cooperative Grocers, Survey and Ballot Systems, Wegner CPAs, and the International Center for Cooperative Management at St. Mary's University, the Neighboring Food Co-op Association, the Triangle Park Creative, and Dorsey and Whitney, LLP, to name a few. Just to go through some procedural steps here, just want to make sure that people understand that this meeting was really put together in line with our policy and bylaws. Notice of the meeting went out approximately around March 30th, and it was sent by postal mail to all members. Next, I want to move to introduce Mr. Casey Fannin, the president and CEO of the National Cooperative Bank. Mr. Fannin, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little bit low, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'll try to speak up a little bit. Is this any better?
Yes, sir, it is. Go right ahead.
All right. Well, thank you, Terrence. Thank you, Christina. My name's Casey Fannin. I'm president and CEO of National Cooperative Bank. It's nice to see you all here today. We're very proud to be a sponsor of today's event. I certainly look forward to the presentations, the forum, and the discussion to follow. I think it's going to be a great afternoon. NCB and Shared Capital have worked together for many years with the goal of promoting cooperatives. These relationships, the relationship we have with Shared Capital and others, is really so important to NCB. We cover a lot of ground. We're in all 50 states across many different industries, and it's the partnerships that we have, like we do with Shared Capital, that make us more successful, and I think make our partners more successful as well. So I can't stress the importance of these partnerships enough. And so thank you, a big thank you to Christina and Shared Capital. I'm a big believer in P6. I'm super excited to see all the names and faces and the count on the bottom of the screen here with all the participants. We're going to achieve more together than we will individually, for sure. I know everyone here agrees with that. And so very much looking forward to the afternoon. So I wanted to say hello, welcome, thank you, and I look forward to the afternoon. Back to you, Terrence. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you again, Casey. And I actually failed to mention that you've been with NCB since 1996, and in all that time you've been someone who's demonstrated a dedication to this work by committing your entire career to the National Cooperative Bank. And so we're welcoming your attendance here, welcoming the support. And again, we want to highlight NCB as a premier sponsor and partner with Shared Capital. Thank you again and welcome. All right, so I think now we want to move on in our conversation. Let's see. So I think what we want to do is move to our board of directors election. We're going to have Mr. Thomas Beckett, who's going to walk us through. Well, let me take a step back. I actually lost myself in my notes. There are a few other things I wanted to mention about NCB, if you give me a moment, because I think it's important to highlight this relationship and I don't want to skip over it. NCB is a member of Shared Capital. Shared Capital Cooperative is also a member of NCB. We bank with NCB. The National Cooperative Bank provides us with a line of credit and holds Shared Capital preferred shares. We refer customers and projects to each other. And during the COVID pandemic, NCB provided us with PPP loans to our members and other cooperatives. So again, we're really fortunate to have this relationship, and I did not want to take any time away from this and highlighting how important that's been over time and how we expect it to be in the future. So just want to take a step back for that. So now I'm going to go back to Thomas who's going to kind of give us a report on the board of directors election. Are you there, Thomas?
Sure. Yes, I am unmuted successfully. Thanks all. I'm Thomas Beckett. I am Executive Director of Carolina Common Enterprise, a cooperative development center serving North Carolina. And I have been on the board of directors of Shared Capital for a good number of years. In fact, I think with JQ Hanna leaving us, I'm the most senior board member. So I'm very happy to be with you all here today to talk about the board of directors and our role, starting with board of directors elections. Yes, I've been on the board since 2015, and I am currently chair of the loan committee. We have an 11-member board of directors. 10 of those seats are elected by cooperative members, and Shared Capital also has individual members who are not cooperatives, and one board seat is elected by the individual members. The candidates for the board are nominated by the members and elected from among the membership. We have had competitive elections every year. This is not a situation where some committee comes up with a slate and the membership rubber stamps that. We've had multiple candidates for seats for as long as I can remember. There were 5 seats up for election this year, 5 of the 11. 4 cooperative members seats. There's 3 with 3-year terms and 1 seat with a year term. Year remaining to fill a vacated seat, and then an individual member representative seat was up for election as well. So we issued an open call for nominations back in March. The election was held in April. I want to thank everybody who ran, and I want to thank all of the members who voted. With a cooperative such as this, with a sort of diffuse and geographically distributed set of members, it's not easy for members to stay up to date and remember to vote. So the ones that do have an important role here. So let's see, election results. The following candidates were elected to the cooperative member representative seats for 3-year terms, starting with Enrique Blanco, who is Operations Director of the Latino Economic Development Center in Minnesota, was nominated by Agua Gorda Cooperative. Terrence Courtney, whom you've already met, was reelected. Holly Jo Sparks is the Executive Director of Spartan Cooperative Housing, et cetera, et cetera. You've already been introduced to her. She is also an incumbent. She was reelected. And then elected to a one-year seat on the board to fill a seat being vacated is Alexander Devendra of Aligned Law, who was nominated by Seattle Electric Bike. And then a 3-year term as an individual member representative, Rapa Mekha is the president and CEO of Nexus Community Partners and is an individual member and was reelected to that seat. So congratulations to the newly elected and re-elected directors. And back to you, Terrence.
Thanks, Thomas. And I want to give a kind of a warm thank you to our outgoing directors. We want to recognize 2 of our directors who are stepping down. Outgoing directors being, as I think Thomas mentioned, JQ Hanna, who is the Associate Director of the Food Co-op Initiative, and who has served on the Shared Capital Board since 2015. Thank you, JQ. And Camille Kerr, who is the principal of Upside Down Consulting and has served since 2022. We deeply appreciate their service. And speaking for myself, I've enjoyed my time on the board with both these people. Sharp, incisive, great folks to have on the board. Thank y'all. So we want to introduce the speakers for the next section. I'm going to introduce Christina Jennings. As y'all know, she's the Executive Director of Shared Capital. And Christina has been with Shared Capital for 15 years, since 2008. I bet that flew by, huh? And I'm going to introduce Holly Jo Sparks. She's the treasurer for Shared Capital. And she's served on the board of directors here since 2017. Y'all ready?
Yeah, thank you, Terrence. Appreciate it. And I'm gonna start out and then hand it over to Holly Jo. So really great to see all of you here today. And I also wanted to invite folks, since right now some folks are off camera and others may be hard to see. If folks want to share who you are and what co-op you're with or what organization you're with in the chat, you could do that, and that way folks can kind of see who's here and meet that way. Anyway, so really glad to have folks here, and we want to just spend a few minutes going over the past year to share with you what has happened in 2022. So I'll kick us off here. So we had a really active year of lending over $7.4 million in loans and equity. Well, it was actually loans and equity investments in 2022, and that was to 24 co-ops. So the work continues to be pretty intensive. Each loan and investment takes a lot of staff work, and so generating those 24 over the course of the whole year with staff working hard to provide the support that each co-op needs. 6 of those were worker co-op conversions, 6 of those 24, and about 84% of the dollars went to co-ops that are owned by low-income people, people of color, women, and LGBTQ folks. So we are thrilled to continue to be committed to having a deep impact in getting dollars to those who may otherwise not have access to capital. 31% of the dollars went to specifically Black and Latinx owned businesses in 2022, which is down from the prior 2 years where it was in the 42 and 48% respectively. So the fund continued to grow during the year and over the last few years. So looking here at a chart, the last 10 years, just showing our growth. The orange part is our assets. A lot of that is the cash we have on hand. Sometimes we had a little more cash. Sometimes we were pretty tight because those blue purple line bars are the dollars we had out in loans. So I think one of the things the last several years has meant, and this chart shows it well, is that we've been able to add dollars so that we can ensure that we have the dollars for the financing we want to provide to members. And so that is now at about 23 million in assets. A couple more slides that show you our loans and our loan and investment portfolio. These are the dollars we had out in cooperatives, and this just gives you a quick taste of the types of cooperatives we were supporting. The largest percentage of our dollars are out in worker co-ops these days, which is a shift over the past 10 years, with about 28% out to housing co-ops, about 17% to consumer grocery co-ops, and about 6% to other consumer-owned co-ops. And then about 9% going to a variety of other types of cooperatives. And so just thought that might be helpful to understand where our dollars are going. I also want to just give you a kind of a glimpse of where we are in the our historical trends. I mean, to date, we've made about 970 loans to co-ops over our 45-year history. We've lent over $66 million. And this little graph on the side shows you that ramp up during the first many years. We were making very small loans, but now over the past 10 years, we've made over 31 million in loans, and over the past 5 alone, we've made over $21 million in loans. And so showing that we can reach more co-ops and get more dollars out the door into the hands of the cooperative members. I just want to give you a couple of quick program updates. We are in year 4 of a collaboration with Project Equity called Accelerate Employee Ownership. This is focused on really supporting job quality through conversions to employee ownership. And to date, we've supported 11 companies that transitioned to employee ownership and provided about 2.4 million in financing to 6 of those companies. Some of those companies self-finance their transitions. We also are supporting the Minnesota Commons Land. We are the fiscal sponsor for a $2.1 million grant to support a commons-based land access initiative in Minnesota. We are also collaborating closely with the Federation of Southern Cooperatives on an heirs property relending program. This is a $5 million USDA Farm Service Agency award. And we spent 2022 really getting a lot of the groundwork in place to launch this program. We are hoping that this program will launch with loans to families who are working to clear the title of their heirs property, and that we'll be able to launch that in middle of 2023 and support folks in getting their titles cleared. Also in 2022, we were able to launch a new initiative with the City of Madison. The City of Madison, for the past 5 years, has had a worker co-op fund that they supported, and they transferred that fund to Shared Capital in 2022. There's about $250,000 remaining in that fund, and we'll use those dollars together with our own dollars to support worker cooperatives in the City of Madison, Wisconsin. We also launched, with the support of the City of Minneapolis, their Co-op Creation Fund. This is a grant fund that we're actually administering for the city to support startup and conversions to cooperatives within the City of Minneapolis. Finally, we wanted to update you on our national direct public offering, which we talked about last year. This is our way to reach more investors who want to support the cooperative economy. And so we have in, I guess, November of 2021, we launched our direct public offering. This allows any investor in the US to make an investment starting at just $500, and they can invest into preferred shares or into our investment notes, which are loans to Shared Capital. It allows us to have an online portal presence, so folks can invest directly through our portal, which is at svxus.org. And access to that is on our website at sharedcapital.coop/invest. But so you can make investments online, and folks can still do it the old-fashioned way through us. Either way has been great. But our first full year of investing, we were able to raise almost 3.2 million in new investments. That's from 65 new investors, which is really exciting. That is coming in at about 25% of that is preferred shares investments, and the balance coming in investment notes, which for us is a great balance. About 3-to-1, giving us a great base for preferred shares to support our equity, while really meeting hopefully the needs of what investors are comfortable doing as well. So our goal is to raise another $5 to $7 million over the next year and a half, and we'll be reaching out to our members and allies in the sector to help us do that. At this point, we have over 285 different investors in shared capital. Those are co-ops, those are allies of individuals and institutions that want to support this work, and have almost 20 million in capital from our investors. So really want to thank those who've been able to support our work through investments. And let me hand it over to Holly Jo. Holly Jo, as Taryn said, is our treasurer. Really appreciate your work on the board of directors. Holly Jo, let me hand it to you.
Oh, thank you. As a financial cooperative, I'm pleased to report back on the juicy bits of our financial condition and activities of 2022. As Christina foreshadowed in the presentation of our robust program accomplishments, Shared Capital continued to see a strong financial performance and significant growth in 2022. The fund grew to nearly 23 million. We made nearly 7.5 million in loans to 24 cooperatives, which was our strongest lending year ever, with no loan losses, I might add, in 2022. Also, as a financial cooperative, I am pleased to share that we approved patronage and preferred stock dividends. The patronage dividend was paid to borrowers proportionally and is based on the interest paid to Shared Capital. In 2022, we issued $17,402 in patronage dividends, which was the equivalent of a 2% rebate on paid interest. Dividends were paid to 109 member borrowers, and these were issued as additional shares. And non-qualified dividends are being credited back to December 31st of 2022. Members should receive notice of the dividends in May of 2023. In 2022, the board also approved a 5% dividend and 5% dividend to holders of our Class A preferred shares. This was totaling $128,210 in dividends. These are being issued also in additional shares and credited to investor accounts effective April 1st of 2023. Notices will also be sent in May. And finally, I am pleased to share that we completed our audited statements at the end of March. So shout out to one of our AGM sponsors, Wegner CPAs, for doing that work with us. Happily, it was a clean and unqualified opinion. And I will hand it over to Andy Shively, our controller with key figures, in order to share those reports. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Holly Jo. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody in attendance today. Really excited to be here to share more information about Shared Capital's financial performance in 2022. If you could move on to the next slide, please. So the balance sheet clearly shows the growth trends that both Christina and Holly Jo have mentioned. Our total assets increased 10% year over year, and we ended 2022 at nearly $23 million. You can see the strong deployment of capital into the cooperative economy in 2022. We ended the year with a loan portfolio, or loans receivable is the word you're looking for on the presentation, of more than $17 million. So that's nearly a $4 million increase over the prior year. Additionally, we nearly doubled our equity investments in cooperatives, increasing from $156,000 to $300,000. So while our cash balance did decrease year over year, that's a planned deployment of the significant capital that we were able to raise during the pandemic. And so those funds are now moving out into the cooperative economy to meet our mission. While our overall liabilities did increase over the course of 2022, this was not due to a kind of overall increase of debt capital being invested in the cooperative, which had been the case in the prior year. While we did raise nearly $1.7 million in new investment notes payable in 2022, this was ultimately offset by repayment of older maturing investments, and ultimately our investment notes payable held steady over the course of the year. The overall increase in our liabilities can be attributed primarily to our deferred revenues, and the increase in those deferred revenues is related to the Commons land project that Christina had mentioned earlier in the meeting. So while we did not see an overall increase in our debt capital in 2022 as we had in 2021, we did instead see a significant increase in investment in our preferred shares offering. That was up 30% from the end of 2021, ending 2022 at nearly $3.39 million. Additionally, we closed yet another profitable year, and we're able to therefore contribute or continue making progress toward reducing our negative retained earnings. We allocated an additional $70,000 to our collective capital after preferred share dividends and patronage allocations to members, as Holly Jo had mentioned. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So moving on to the income statement, you can see that we've closed a third profitable year in a row with a net income before taxes of nearly $317,000. Now, while this figure is down roughly $550,000 from the prior year, the underlying fundamentals are shifting in the right direction. Can we go to the next slide, please? There we go. So this graph shows our revenue trends over the last decade. Earned revenues are in green and contributed revenues are in blue. So while we were able to maintain strong profitability despite a $1.27 million decrease in grant revenues, and that's ultimately like a return to more expected levels for grant revenues. As you can see from the spike in the graph, 2021 grant revenues were inflated, and that's really by pandemic relief programs. So additionally, we continue to see increases in our earned revenues, that green bar. They were up 16% from the prior year. In fact, our interest and loan fee revenues, those are the revenues that are directly related to our core lending activity, those broke the $1 million mark for the first time in 2022. So ultimately, we're continuing to make progress toward our goals of operational sustainability and some reduced reliance on grant funding. Next slide, please. So on the expense side, you can see a substantial increase in personnel costs as the cooperative increased staffing levels to be commensurate with what other loan funds of our size do. The increased capacity in 2022 certainly facilitated the increase in lending levels that we saw this past year. The increase in personnel costs does contribute to some of the decrease that we see in other operating expenses as work previously outsourced to contractors was brought in-house. However, the majority of that reduction is the result of 2021 expenses being somewhat inflated due to a grant-funded program we were operating that year. The biggest savings in expenses, though, is seen in the provision made for loan losses in 2022. The overall risk rating of our portfolio remains steady over the course of the year, whereas in 2021, we saw a lot more volatility. Overall, the cooperative remains on a solid financial footing and continues to make steady progress toward our fiscal goals. We're looking forward to another successful year in 2023, about which Christina can share some insights, though I will stop and ask if we've got time for any Q&A before we move on.
Yeah, I think we could take a couple of questions, Adam, right? If there were a couple of questions that folks wanted to put into the chat, we could take a couple of questions specific to programs or finance.
Yeah, and if these absolutely, and if these are a little detailed, we ask people to go to the breakout session, but please go ahead in the chat and ask something if you want to know. Nothing yet, Andy, so I don't know if you wanted to.
Well, while give it a second to see if there are any questions. I would just note that, of course, with the banking crisis in the broader environment, I think we are keeping close tabs on that, but are really pleased to have our funds in both socially aligned and financially strong institutions. And so we're keeping an eye on, of course, on the broader situation, but have no reason for concern. So I'll add that note. Before anyone has a chance to ask it, they can ask folks. We can certainly talk more about that in the discussion. I think there may be a couple of questions. Is there anything that we can cover?
Yeah, there's one coming in. Kathy asked, does the DPO pose any risk of potential PEF takeover?
I'm not sure what PEF is, but what I would note is that investors do not have voting rights. Now, individuals can become members, but investors who are not cooperatives and who are not individuals cannot vote, and they sign on to specifically be non-voting investors with no governing role. That is the role we ask institutional investors to play. Furthermore, we actually removed the requirement that investors become members, specifically to ensure that the folks who were members were folks who really wanted to engage actively with the cooperative. And of course, individual membership, that class of membership has a limited role within our governance. It elects one board member and has one vote, collective vote towards all governance issues. So the governance still sits with our cooperatives, and we believe that that role is protected for that reason. That said, I think we also need to make sure that we're going out and raising more dollars from the cooperative sector. The cooperatives used to be over 50% of our capital source, and as we've grown the rest, I think the cooperative sector has lagged behind. I think it's time for us to do additional outreach to make sure that the cooperatives continue to be a really substantial part of our capital base, but they will retain governance control. Any other questions? One last question and then we move on.
Now there's nothing else.
All right, great. Well, great news that folks those of you who would love to talk more about any of the financials, one of the breakout sessions will allow you to do that. And so please plan to join breakout session 1 if you'd like to spend more time chatting about it. It won't be additional presentation, but there'll be a chance for additional discussion. And then I think I can jump then into, really want to thank both Holly Jo and Andy for their work. Holly Jo as our treasurer and Andy as our very reliable and trustworthy controller who's done an amazing job over her years with us. And so really want to thank you, Andy, for all that you put into making sure that we are doing well by the money that we need to do, and taking good care of the management and operations of our cooperative here. So thank you. And then I want to take a minute to really thank our whole team. And if I can get the cursor on the right place so I can share with you. This is our fabulous team. We're excited to have been able to add a few folks and want to just take a minute to introduce our team to you. Gabrielle Chapman, starting on the left of the photo list. Gabrielle Chapman's our program manager. Mark Downey, our director of finance and operations. Mark Fick is our senior loan officer. Ashley Long is our loan and investment associate. Roderick McCullough is our loan officer. Mike Sayo, our portfolio analyst. Adam Trott, our director of member relations, Esther West, our loan officer, and Rhonda Weidling, our operations manager. So this is the team that's making everything happen and getting the dollars out into the hands of co-ops. So I want to really thank them for all of that. And let me hand it back to Terrence now.
Thanks again, Christina, and thanks to the staff. I've had an opportunity to interact with most of them, I think, and they do a great job keeping this ship afloat. So thank you, board. Thank you, staff. Beautiful combination. So we're going to move on to some unfinished, perhaps, and new business. From my notes here, I'm seeing that there is no unfinished business. Am I right about that?
That is correct. There is no unfinished business coming to this meeting.
And no new business as well.
There is no new business.
Okay, so with that, I want to give thanks to everyone for attending. Next, we're going to have our annual cooperative forum. This year, we're looking at how conversions to employee ownership are bringing financial and other benefits to working people. how do we proceed with the cooperative forum? I think we're gonna go into breakout rooms. Is that right?
Actually, we're going to start with some presentations, Terrence. And
Okay.
so I'm going to introduce our panelists, and we will just take a moment for some logistics. Thank you so much, Terrence, for running the business meeting. Great job. We really appreciate your taking the time to do that. And want to just take a minute to say that we're going to go into our cooperative forum, which is a chance to really kind of dig in a little bit on a topic. At the end of it, we'll spend about a half an hour doing this, or up to about a half an hour, and then we'll move into breakout discussion rooms. And so there'll be a chance at that point to join one of two rooms. And the two rooms, so you can be thinking about it, one would be a chance to spend some more time on the financial reporting, for those of you who'd like to really understand more about the financials you saw. And the other will be a chance to spend some more time on the topics of the discussion that we're about to go into. So if you want to go there, so just you'll have a chance to be to basically indicate your interest in which discussion group after the end of the presentations. Adam, any other logistics that you want to cover before I move forward?
No, thank you. This is my favorite part.
Excellent. So terrific. Well, we have a few great folks with us here today to share information, and I want to just spend a couple of minutes giving you some orientation to the topic. As I'm guessing that we have folks who are quite knowledgeable about this, as well as folks for whom this may be a newer topic. So first of all, I just want to say that what we want to spend time thinking about here is how conversions to employee ownership are benefiting workers. We know that the need, if there's one thing that the pandemic showed us and really laid bare, was the fact that there were incredible inequities for workers, and we are still recovering, of course, from the impact of the pandemic on workers. But employee ownership really is an amazing opportunity to create a whole new work environment, really transform the workplace, right? So first of all, for those who may be less familiar with worker cooperatives, I want to just take a moment to clarify what we're talking about. We're talking about a conversion to employee ownership. And let's see, let me get to the right. So a conversion to employee ownership is a time when the employees come together, form often a worker cooperative or some other entity, and actually purchase a business from a prior owner. So that is the basic concept. And we also have seen conversions to other types of cooperatives. In fact, Shared Capital was a conversion from a nonprofit to a cooperative in 1988. But we're specifically talking here about those that are converting to worker ownership. So a couple of things, and let's see if I can multitask here. So I want to just share a couple things about what we've seen in the conversion space. Over the past 5 years, worker cooperative conversions have become really the fastest growing part of our portfolio. So between 2018 and 2022, we financed 21 conversions to employee ownership, and that was about $6 million going into those businesses. And that is compared to the prior 5 years when we financed one worker cooperative conversion, and it was about $100,000. So that's a pretty steep shift. Today, the worker co-op conversions make up about 35 to 45% of the of the projects we're working with in any given year. That said, we did see a real slowdown during the pandemic as businesses, were not the transactions of the sales slowed quite a bit in 2020 and 2021, but we did see a ramp back up in 2022. So that growth is despite the slowdown caused by the pandemic, that growth in deals that we're seeing. Among those, we are seeing a really terrific increase in both the financial profitability and performance of those businesses after the conversion, and also the way those benefits are getting passed along to the workers. And so that's where we really want to kind of dig in today. And I have a couple of great folks with us, and I'm going to introduce them briefly. I'm going to then I'll pull them. We'll pull them into the conversation after that. And let me just get the slides sharing so I can just show briefly. We have Patty Viafara, who is the Director of Worker Ownership Initiatives at Nexus Community Partners. And Nexus is a longtime collaboration partner for Shared Capital. And we're thrilled to have Patty with us. And we'll bring her on to talk a little bit in a moment. We also have Han Dang with Proof Bakery Co-op, and that's a Los Angeles-based conversion. We provided financing to Proof Bakery back in 2021. And we provided a $450,000 loan to the workers to buy that successful bakery business in the LA area. And we're also going to hear from Brian Sinclair with Snow River Custom Wood Products, Snow River Cooperative. They are a small manufacturing company in rural Wisconsin. And unfortunately, Brian is not able to be with us today, but we are fortunate that our loan officer, Esther West, was able to visit with him and record a brief video so that we can hear some of his comments. But their story is a terrific one. Back in November of 2019, we got a call that there was a small manufacturing shop that was needing to figure out a way to, they wanted to see if they could become a worker co-op because the owner had decided that he needed to exit the business and he was planning to just close the business down. It was 8 full-time employees in a unionized manufacturing shop. And 8 employees may not sound like a lot, but I want to share that this is a rural community of about 3,000 people. And at the time, in late 2019, when the economy was pretty strong in a lot of places, Crandon, Wisconsin had an unemployment rate of over 10%, the highest rate, among the highest rates in the entire state of Wisconsin. So the loss of 8 unionized manufacturing jobs would have had an impact on that community and certainly on those 8 people's lives and their families. And so that was one of the fastest conversions we've seen between November of 2019 and April 1 of 2020. They managed to put together a really viable plan. How did they do that? They had strong employees who were ready to do it, but they also had the support of 2 key partners, Cooperative Development Services and Kevin Edberg's team there, and the UW Center for Cooperatives and their team there. And they were able to put together a great plan. And so we'll hear, I'll take a minute here, we'll take about 3 minutes to hear from Brian, one of the workers.
Okay, I think we're having just a little bit of technical concerns with Christina. Christina, I'm going to go ahead and try to share this video.
So I have it shared. Do you want me to try to share? Let me try to share again. Then I think it may have bounced it out. So hold on 1 second. Let me just go back. I thought you were seeing it too. Let's try this again. Okay, you can hopefully see the video now. All right, let's try this again.
Okay, I think you have to unmute. We don't have any sound, Christina.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Christina, we can't hear that. I believe you have to start again and unmute yourself because I think that's stopping the sound from coming through. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks everyone for your patience. We're just going to try this one more time. Christina, you're muted.
So thanks, Adam. I did have it unmuted. I think it had bounced off the share when I tried the first time, but it is unmuted. I do have it fully up. Would you like to share, or would you like me to try it again? You'll need to give me quicker feedback on it because I'm just letting it play because I thought you were set. So just give me, let me try real quick and let me know if it doesn't work. Adam, can you hear it?
We can't hear that. Maybe we can go to a different one and I'll try to prep the video on my side. And you're muted again.
Thanks, folks, for your patience. I'd love to share this, but if we can't hear it, I think we thought it had worked when we had tried this yesterday. So let's see. Adam, if you can quickly pull it up on your screen, we can make you the presenter. If not, we'll move on.
All right, I'll try one more time. Let's see. 1 second.
I'm Brian Sinclair. I'm with Snow River Cooperative. This is our fourth year now of being a cooperative. We became a cooperative when our owner of the company at the time decided to close the doors. And we were looking at options to try to do it. The University of Wisconsin Co-op Development came up and helped us. Got us set us up with all the people we needed, actually set us up with shared capital to talk about it. And we made it through. And now business has been extremely good. It has grown dramatically, unfortunately, or fortunately for us now. Our initial year was the year of COVID. So when the pandemic hit and everything was closing down, we were nervous a little bit because we do a fair amount of business with casinos and food chains with different distributors and restaurants, and all of that business was gone. But the good thing was our biggest customer is an online customer that does a lot of engraving with the items we have, and their business went crazy because everybody was sitting at home and had money. So there it goes. They're buying like crazy. So our business just really, really came strong and came apart. And as we've gone now, we've grown. And now it's this year we'll taper off a little and kind of settle into a little bit more the way we anticipated now that people aren't doing quite so much online as they were. But it's still going to be in a very good year. All of our employees, we have 8 people left. Their pay rate went from $15 an hour to a little over $27 an hour now. We do a 401k match, dollar for dollar. Medical insurance is paid for 100% by the company. Last year, our people, I shouldn't say employees because we're all the same employee here. We all got $27,500 in patronage last year as well. So it's been a very, very productive so far. No one wants to retire, although we're all getting there. We have one guy that's 72 and still does not want to leave. We have 3 people turning 65 this year. The others are in the late 50s, early 60s, with one youngster at 44 or something. You know, we are in the process now of looking for a couple of key positions in case people do want to retire. You know, I'm working with the college. College was here on Monday. They're looking for some skilled positions for us. Someone to replace a couple of the people that would require more than a half-hour training session. So we're working with them to get something set. But yes, it's been an extremely good ride so far.
Great. Thanks for making that work, Adam. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for bearing with us. Well, you know, there's nothing like trying to show a video in a presentation to ensure that you'll have headaches. But anyway, I think their story is a really interesting one, and the numbers are very real, right? So I think we really did want to share that with you. Well, let me shift to the folks who are actually, we're thrilled to have some folks with us today as well, as I mentioned. And so I want to bring Han Dang and Patty Viafara on to join in the conversation. And I wanted to start by just having each of them introduce themselves. I wonder, Han, if you would be willing to tell us a little bit about, I think while you're getting on camera, let me start actually with Patty. Patty, could you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your background, and then we'll get into the conversation after you both have had a chance to introduce yourselves.
Sure. So I'm Patty Viafara. I'm the director of the Worker Ownership Initiative at Nexus Community Partners based in St. Paul. I am one of their first remote employees. I'm actually based in Austin, Texas at this point. My background, I've been doing cooperative conversions for about 6 years, I think. And prior to that, a little bit of everything, which is actually, I think, something that has helped me in this work. I've done HR, I've been a mortgage broker, I've been a barista. And so I think all of those things have really helped me be able to understand both the businesses that we work with and the employees' perspective.
That's me. Thanks, Patty. And hi, Han. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And I wondered if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and about Proof Bakery.
Hi, my name is Han Dang. I am at Proof Bakery Cooperative. We became a co-op in 2021. Proof has been around for almost 12 years. 12 years would be in November this year. We became a co-op in August 2021. We currently have 24 employees, but 17 is worker owner. But starting off, it was actually only 11 worker owners, the founding members. So it's growing, it's exciting. I've been here myself for almost 6 years now, and I'm one of the lead bakers. This is my first working at a co-op business. My first interaction with co-op was actually in 2018. I lived in Berkeley for a little bit, so Cheese Board was is how I heard about co-ops. And then when Young told me back in 2020 that she was deciding to leave and transition Proof to co-op, it was such a great experience. To actually move forward now.
That's terrific. Well, Han, how has it been for your team as members, as workers in a cooperative? What's your experience been? Has there been any sort of significant shifts in the way it works for you all?
Operation wise, it has not much. We still have managers and certain position, like tier wise. So operation, it's still the same, but for like a bigger picture, finance wise with the members and just worker owner has shifted as everyone has a little more responsibility now, and everyone's taking ownership and accountability, which has been great just to see that. And like the morale of the bakery with all the worker owner has really boosted. So a lot of people has been taking a lot of accountability and responsibility, which is great to see since I've been here for so long. So I've seen a lot of people in and out of the bakery for the past couple of years. So I would say right now, from back of the house wise, a lot of people, we have been here for over 2 years or longer.
Nice, that's great. Thank you. And let me turn to Patty a little bit. I mean, I think, Patty, you've worked with, as you said, a number of conversions. Can you share some what you've seen? If you have specific examples, feel free to share those, or just generally, what have you seen among other conversions like Proof and Snow River?
I think I echo what Han just said. It's funny because we'll often work with people when they're still employees, when there's still a lot of respect and deference towards the owner, and they come in and they're very quiet and shy, and at the end of the process, they've put together a new business plan. The owner is not talking as much anymore, and so there is some personal growth, leadership growth, engagement that happens. But I think also the financial benefits. As you mentioned, during the pandemic, we had companies that really were able not just to survive, but thrive during the pandemic because they took a collective and holistic approach to their members, to keeping their members employed and keeping money in people's pockets, really.
That's a great. Thank you so much, Patty. That's really helpful to hear your experience. And Han, your role is as one of the lead bakers, and so I mean, have wages shifted for workers under this? Have there been other financial shifts for you all, or has it been mostly kind of just sort of shifting around? I mean, it seems like you've got a great workplace there. So just curious, are there financial shifts for you all as well?
Definitely. Benefit-wise, financial for all worker owners and employees here have increased by 15% actually early this year. So we recently just passed a proposal to equalize tip because before, or actually Proof history, tip-wise was allocated. It was 50% front of the house and 50% front of the back of the house, but back of the house we have roughly about 15 employees, and in front of the house was only 4. So even with the salary wage, like hourly wage, back of the house had a little more, but it did not equalize what front of the house was being tipped out for. So we recently just passed that proposal. So now across the board, the whole bakery, not just worker owner, all employees got a 15% raise, and also tip is equalized through the whole bakery, which has been very beneficial for all employees.
That's great. That's great. That's a great example to hear how that's worked for you all. And you mentioned you also have benefits then for employees. Is that available to all employees, or what kind of benefits are you able to offer?
Yes. So as just Proof, just our values, we actually benefit for all employees. You don't have to be a worker owner. That is an option. If someone would, after a year being here, they are able to join if they want to. But health benefit has increased. Our amazing finance manager, Kari, has done a lot of work and research to increase our health benefits recently. But yeah. And then patronage dividends, like allocation of last year has, for me myself, because I actually left for maternity leave when Proof actually became a co-op. So I came back in, I think, early 2022. So I did not see the patronage for 2021, but I saw it last year. And for myself, we calculate, for Proof, we calculate by how many hours you work. So for myself, just for 2022, I saw a 19,000 just in patronage allocation, which is amazing for me.
That's amazing, and congratulations on on the baby.
Thank you.
That's terrific. Thank you so much for sharing about that. That's I mean, it's really exciting to hear about those real tangible benefits, as well as sounds like in terms of the workplace. Patty, I wonder if you could also just talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of maybe what some of the challenges that some worker co-op conversions may be facing. And then I'll maybe ask you, Han, also if you could share any challenges. But Patty, starting with you, what do you think some of the biggest challenges that maybe are still to be overcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things that I see which aren't necessarily exclusive to cooperatives, but there is sort of a gap in services available to small businesses. So finding lawyers that can support cooperatives, CPAs. I think we all know there's a shortage just across the country. And so, and you know, that just sort of goes across the board. And so oftentimes I've seen employee owners have to do things on their own and learn things on their own. And that's fantastic, but you know, could it be easier? Can we move things faster? Access to capital is certainly something that we've worked with Shared Capital to unlock, as far as lenders across the country that can underwrite a cooperative in a way that is beneficial and that is generative to the businesses. So oftentimes, you know, when we speak with traditional lenders, they're interested, but not ready to take the step. So you know, there's definitely things in the ecosystem that we still have work to do to really sort of unlock the spigot, if you will.
Yeah, that's helpful to hear. And maybe just Han, to check in with you, what are some of the challenges that your employee base and your work owners are facing then in terms of your next steps? What do you are there challenges you're all facing? I'm glad to hear the financial benefits, but I also wanted to check in on what else.
I think challenges wise, it's just we're still a very new co-op. I think everyone here as an employee owner, we've never ran our own business before, so we're all still learning the process and figuring out like how to maneuver, especially with management, because we have a board and we still have management. So kind of like boundaries we have to set, so we're not overstepping, because for us at Proof, a manager can't sit on the board, so it's other employees who technically are managing the management team, but in a broader picture. So that's been very challenging, at least for me, personal for me.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that. Well, I want to take a minute to see if there are just a couple of questions, and then we'll kind of do deeper dive into questions during the breakout session, and we want to move into that in the next couple of minutes. And so Han and Patty, if you're able to stick around for that, that'd be terrific. I know, Han, it's clear you're at work and trying to get the right word. So, but I hope if you can stick around, that'd be terrific. Really appreciate your being here, and we wish Proof a lot of continued success. It's really, and appreciate you taking the time to share your story. Let's just see if there's a question or two. Adam, are there any questions that we want to bring into this? Otherwise, we can. I'll bring a few if not.
Yeah, there's no questions for the speakers. We did have a couple about other things that we might be able to cover, including efforts to reach out about worker cooperative conversions in general. But
yeah, that was one of the things I was going to mention, is that I think that for the ecosystem, certainly one of the challenges is continuing to build awareness, and I know that through some of our collaborations and partners that folks are really trying to get the word out to business owners and to businesses about this opportunity, so that it can even be an option for folks when they're thinking about succession. we're also certainly seeing that limited access to capital being a really critical challenge. We have been trying over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe more, to try and bring more lenders, banks and larger CDFIs into the conversion work. And we find that the requirement for personal guarantees that so many lenders have end up being a barrier because it just really doesn't make sense for a couple of, say, for example, employees at Proof Bakery to guarantee the whole loan when they are just one of 17 worker owners and one of 24 employees. It just doesn't make sense in that structure. But lenders don't have an alternative that they've been willing and able to move towards. So I think that's something we're seeing. I think the other challenge that I think we are continuing to see is that really making sure that this opportunity is available to a broad array of businesses, and particularly businesses where the employees are low to moderate income, and also workplaces that are predominantly people of color, making sure that this opportunity for employee ownership is available in those spaces as well. And that's both an awareness and development challenge, I think. So making sure that we've seen a lot of success with some small professional businesses, but wanting to make sure that that the gamut of businesses have that opportunity. I don't know, Patty, if you want to comment on the sort of on that question of how do we. I don't know, you might have an answer, but if you want to speak just to what the challenges are, really reaching more diverse businesses and making sure that some benefits are passed along.
Yeah, I don't have an answer yet, but I think there's a couple of things at play. One is being able to reach those businesses. So we found that being in community, working with community organizations has gotten us in the right rooms versus social media or just broader campaigns. We've also seen businesses owned by people of colors, particularly Black-owned businesses, tend to be much smaller. And when we have that, the owner's exit has an outsized impact. And so, we've been working on, maybe trying out some early engagement with a growth path, with just identifying where things need to be strengthened so that in 2 years we can look at a conversion. So there is sort of that gap of how do we get a business from 1 or 2 employees to 5 or 6, right? Which feels small, but that's a 300% growth. And so how do we do that so that we can start to bring these services to those businesses? And I think the other piece, which is more on a national level, which I've seen, is just the lack of cooperative developers of color and cooperative developers in the Southeast, where we have, a strong population of color.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. That's really helpful, Patty. And I think there can be lots of additional conversation on that. I appreciate your thinking. And thank you again so much, Han, for your comments. We will move into our discussion breakouts now. And so let me hand it to you, Adam. And just again, want to thank everyone for being here for all of